I got arrested for ayahuasca. Those are words I promise you I never, ever wanted to utter, but they became my reality earlier this year. And so I'm here to share the story of getting arrested for Aya with all of you, in part because it's part of my healing, but in part because I want all of you to know what's happening in the United States and beyond regarding these amazing, beautiful plant medicines that we all love so much, so that we can stay safe and informed, because there's a lot of sneaky stuff happening, y'all. No surprise there, right? Okay, so quickly, my story is not very dramatic and interesting in that it only involves an intercepted package I never saw, so I can't confirm or deny any of this except for it is what the system told me. A package was intercepted that apparently had ayahuasca in it, and not the brew itself, but what we call fudge or honey, something really, really cooked down, almost like in a solid form. And I found out there was a warrant for my arrest because police were showing up at my house when I wasn't home. And so I got a lawyer who confirmed that with the police, and I turned myself in. And I went and spent 3 days in jail. It was supposed to just be a handful of hours, but our system is woefully overloaded. And I had no criminal history, so I got lost, but I needed it because my experience in jail was, to date, the most poignant opportunity to own the incredible, amazing gifts that these plants teach us. Most specifically, that liberation, freedom, is not an externally granted thing. It's something I give myself. I'll be completely honest with you that when I first found myself in a jail cell in Denver, Colorado, I didn't feel free at all. I felt victimized. I felt betrayed by the planet, by the plants, by the whole effing universe. And I went down into a really, really dark tunnel. But to prove that magic is happening everywhere all the time, of all the jail cells that I got put in one that somehow, some way, a previous cellmate put a mandala, this beautiful drawn mandala, on the wall. We're not allowed to have pen, paper, any of that stuff. I don't know how she did it, but she left something for me that was a cosmic wink from the universe that reminded me, no, things are not what they seem. So my 3 days in jail were some of the most sacred times I've ever had in my life, because I got to work with that mandala and feel the freedom I have in my heart, which is what ayahuasca, Huachuba have been teaching me all the time. It's here. And once I found it, I mean, the ecstatic state that I was able to manifest despite being in the most vile pit of suffering I've ever witnessed. The way we treat each other in there, any of you who have been there, you know, it's worse than we could possibly describe. So what a rite of passage. And of course, my journey was just beginning when I got out of jail because they were building a case against me. Here's how the system works. Because they intercepted a package, what they did, 2 things really heinous. One, they weighed the entire thing. So we're talking packaging materials, whatever the ayahuasca itself was packaged in. We're talking the plant material themselves, water weight, but they weighed the whole thing, which I think was 4 pounds and something. And the law enforcement said the whole thing was DMT. Not even ayahuasca, by the way, DMT, which I don't work with. I am an outspoken advocate for working with nature, not synthetics. And so that smacks of hypocrisy in a couple ways. One, there was probably less than a gram of DMT in that package, and they were charging me with 4-point-something pounds, which means that they got to charge me with conspiracy, because who wants 4.4 pounds of DMT for personal use? But it wasn't that. It was maybe less than a gram, but they don't look at it that way. They play dirty. And the other thing that broke my heart around that is that every single court document that exists against me named that I worked with DMT and not ayahuasca. When are we going to stop treating the alkaloids that are chemically extracted from organic plant material as the same thing as the plants themselves? The reason why I think this is so crazy on so many levels is not just the obvious, it's not the same thing, is it just speaks to humanity's, the Western world's challenge as a whole to honor the wisdom and potency of nature. So if I say that psilocybin extracted from mushrooms is the same as the mushroom itself, I'm dishonoring the magic of the organic matter that nature has created and the mystery that we don't even understand happens. I don't even like calling psilocybin mushrooms psilocybin because they're more than that. And ayahuasca is definitely more than DMT. When the judge in my case said the final ruling, which I got a year probation, I'm really lucky. She couldn't even say DMT. She looked at me to pronounce it. I'm like, I don't know. I don't work with it. I know how to pronounce ayahuasca. And they don't even understand the difference. There's even a lot of members of our community that perpetuate this myth. I mean, there's the latest book from Rick Strassman, the Psychedelic Handbook. On the cover of his book, he says ayahuasca/DMT. And I'm holding us all accountable for knowing that these are different substances. There's a place for DMT. I'm not vilifying it at all, but I've really had it after my legal journey of seeing how ayahuasca is intrinsically linked with the idea that it is a chemical. And that perpetuates the idea that we can create it, duplicate it in a lab setting, and we can't. So that's what happened to me. I had a 4-month journey in the legal system. They threatened me with 40 years in prison. That was what was hanging over my head for 4 months of this year because, they do the math of 4-point-something pounds of DMT means that you must have been conspiring to distribute. So hence and this is the state of Colorado, which is supposed to be a pretty progressive place, right? No. So when it first happened, I honestly thought, am I one of the last shamanic facilitators to get held accountable for something like this? Because we have a decriminalization movement happening, right? And so I went into some victim consciousness around it, I will admit, of just like, wow, the timing. Now that I know what I know, it turns out that I am probably one of the last shamanic practitioners to get probation. Because here's what is happening, and this is really what I want to share with you all, because there's going to be a lot of initiatives on the ballots in the coming years. And I want all of you to please read the fine print in the decriminalization process, because what has happened thus far is when we have voted to decriminalize almost across the board, we have given the power to the system to regulate and colonize the medicines. We are not creating safety for individuals like myself who want to honor shamanic traditions. We are giving the system that used to vilify these medicines the right to profit, control, and regulate. So think of it this way. If somebody gets picked up for operating on someone without a medical license, we throw them in jail for a really long time, right? The same is about to be true for shamanic practitioners. That if we're trained in the old school indigenous ways and not given a gold star by the system, in other words, we're outside of the system, we're going to be held accountable for being reckless and treated like criminals the way that I was. We are not making things legal and safe for people that want to honor the traditions. I'm all for the decriminalization movement and giving therapists and doctors and everyone the education and the right to administer these medicines because I want people to heal. But to treat people that choose to do it in a different way, like criminals, even though they're trying to save people's lives, is completely not okay. And that's what happened to me. Now, I will add that in my case, the DA, the judges I encountered, my lawyers, my probation officer, all of them have been incredible, beautiful, compassionate human beings. I'm lucky. I'm really lucky. I know a lot of my brothers and sisters are going to jail or prison for a very long time, and their crime is they had the courage to carry the medicines and to not get a gold star from a system, and they just wanted to help in a different way. So I wanted to share all of this with you because we can't let this continue to happen. Please, when we're voting in initiatives that give legal access to these plants, it has to be to everyone. The laws that we passed so far, we give the system not only the right to regulate and control, but to change their minds at any time and to decide, it used to be 1 gram of DMT you could have for personal use. Now it's a half. And they're going to make it more and more restricted so that they can crack the code in the lab and profit off of it. So we have to stop that. Yeah, we have the power. And the second thing I wanted to share with you all is that, to my knowledge, I had the Ayahuasca Defense Fund behind me, which is my guardian angels. They're a nonprofit division of ICEers, and they have helped to try over 160 cases in over 20 some 30 some countries. They're on a mission to defend people like me, and they stood in my corner, and they taught me that in many cases the US is one of the most dangerous places in the world to do this work, because there's a false sense of security coming in. So we have to understand that when we vote, we have to read the fine print and make sure we are not handing over control of sacred medicines to the corporate vultures that just wish to continue to profit. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I wanted to share too. The two places, to my knowledge, where people are getting in trouble are in airports, transporting plants, and in the mail. I do not know of any actual prosecution of people in ceremonies. There's a really fine line between separation of church and state with that work, right? So I don't know of anybody getting arrested and prosecuted and tried for doing ceremony work. Where it's happening is with me. It happened with a package and with people transporting goods in via airports. And that's happening, by the way, in countries like Costa Rica and Brazil, where we would expect, oh, it's decriminalized or it's legal, it's fine. They're cracking down like crazy. You may have heard of one of the most famous shamans in the world, Jose Campos, was picked up just before I was in Mexico in, I believe, February. I don't even know if he's out of jail yet. He was in jail for many months. Hopefully he has been released by now. But we're talking, this is happening more often, not less often. And you would think that with the global acceptance, it would be the opposite, but because the system wants to control it, it's not. And so I just wanted to make you all aware. Somebody was asking in chat, isn't DMT an alkaloid in ayahuasca? Yes, it's an alkaloidal component, but they are not the same thing. If you extract an alkaloid out of a natural plant material, it becomes an aspect of that plant, but you're losing the spirit, you're losing the consciousness, you're losing the intelligence. It is a chemical versus an organic, natural made substance. Not saying anything is wrong with the chemical, by the way. I know people have ridiculously amazing, beautiful experiences with it. But that said, they are not the same thing, and that's what I'm objecting to. Somebody's asking, can I describe how my package was intercepted? Yeah, this is speculation because we don't really know how or why I was targeted. The best guess, because if any of you have been arrested, you know that what happens when they build a case against you, they have something called a discovery. It's essentially all of their evidence. And in that, they have an FBI file that shows everybody that they know that you are associated with. The way they figure that out is typically if you make major purchases like houses and cars and things like that, if you live together, if you travel together, there are ways that they're tracking how and why people are linked. Why? Because they know that most crimes that they deem crimes are not committed by ourselves. So in that discovery, they were aware that I was associated with people that have been picked up, have had packages confiscated, and have been stopped at airports. That's our best guess as to why I was targeted. You may think it's because I'm on Instagram and I'm doing things like this. The charges against me had nothing to do with being public about it. It had to do with the package itself. So, this is my lawyer, then the Ayahuasca Defense Fund. Our best guess is it was a ticking time bomb. A, because I've been doing this a long time and I'm associated with people that are, and B, because the system is cracking down more and more and more for the things that I just told you. So, that's what I know. I would just tell you all, don't order anything that goes through customs, because I know of so many people now that are public, that are not public, that don't have any, social media presence, that are getting, like somebody got 12 years in Georgia around the same time that I got tried and got 1 year probation for a single package of medicine. So the game is kicking up. Somebody's asking, did they come to my house? How did they come for me? Yeah, the police came to my house, but I wasn't home, but I have one of those video like doorbells. And so I realized the police were coming to my door. And so I got a lawyer to find out why, because it was like, what is happening? So that's how I found out there was a warrant for my arrest and got to turn myself in. Any other questions you want to put up in chat? I'm happy to answer them, but I want to ask you all to please support the decriminalization nature movement, because they are a body of people that have communities all around the country, all around the world, that are spreading the same message of making us aware we are giving the power to the wrong people. And they have just really beautiful people that are fighting and champion the legalization of these plants for all people, not for the people that the system deems worthy. And somebody's saying in chat, as more people become aware of the healing properties, they will come for us. That's exactly what's happening, because the system used to vilify these medicines. Now they want to profit off of them. And so we have to play by their rules. Somebody's asking, your package was confiscated also. What steps can I do to protect myself? Well, if you haven't had police show up at your doorstep, I wouldn't worry about it. A lot of packages are confiscated. Nothing happens. Just know that you are now on a list. What you can do to protect yourself, don't order anything else from anyone that is considered contraband. Don't bring it through customs. Somebody's asking, if you order ayahuasca paste from Peru, could it land you in jail? Yes, it can. That's all this was. And it, and like I said, they weighed packaging, they weighed everything and accused the whole thing of being DMT. They don't play fair. So you're asking, does being on probation now mean you can no longer host ceremonies during this time? Yeah, that's exactly what it means. So I can promote in legal spaces. I can be a champion like I am right now for, safe and ethical relationships with the medicine, but I don't get to sit behind the altar. I don't get to work with my sacraments for the duration of my probation. I kind of needed a timeout, so it's okay. But at the same time, would we do this to someone who is Catholic and take away their Eucharist? No, we wouldn't. So my religion, which really truly is shamanism, it's my whole spiritual world, it's my whole world in general, was vilified and taken away. That's how it is in this country right now. Should you start growing things at home? Well, a lot of these medicines don't grow at home. And again, that's not legal either. So I can't advocate anything of the sort. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move out of the country because it's just not a safe place to be. Somebody's asking if you order chacruna and cappy vine separate. So technically, according to the law, the plants themselves in their raw and natural states are legal. However, I will tell you that plants like bobenzana, which is not psychotropic, are getting confiscated by customs. And people are getting nasty grams in the mail saying you tried to bring in contraband. I don't even know what that's about. Here it is, a plant that symbolizes self-love and heart opening, and she's being treated like a villain. So technically speaking, according to the Ayahuasca Defense Fund, there's only 3 plants that in their raw form cannot be transported. That's peyote, it's ganja, although that's changing, and it's coca. The vine and the leaf and even cactus and things like that are technically legal in their natural form. I'm not going to test fate anymore myself ever, but that's what I know. My probation is 1 year. And I'm already 2+ months in. So I'm enjoying a little time off and preparing for my return next year and to move out of this country and to continue my work with my sacraments. But I'm just here to share all of you the reality of what is happening, because I am not alone in this. When this happened to me, I met activists, I met many people who've been through the same thing, and we're all just desperate to make people aware that what we've been doing is making it more dangerous for people who want to follow a shamanic tradition. So thank you all so much for showing up, for caring, for being on a soapbox out there and making other people aware of this. Thank you for supporting me. Somebody's asking which countries are safer. Well, there's no country that's totally safe. Peru is the safest. Costa Rica, close behind. Brazil, Portugal was the first country in the world to decriminalize the plants. And that's probably where I'm headed. But You know, no place is totally safe in this regard, but most places are safer than the US. So that's what I know. If you have personal questions about this, please reach out to me because I really want to keep everybody safe. None of you have to go through what I went through. Jail was amazing in terms of what it taught me, but we can learn in a different way. I love you guys. I'll be back next week, and I want to talk about what Aya has taught me about victim consciousness and actually be a champion for it, which we don't hear very often in spiritual spaces, do we? So that will be next week. And until then, you guys, be safe out there. Be good to yourselves. So much love.